So hello everyone. In this lecture I am going to tell you about the electromagnetic wave equation using the help of Maxwell's four equation. And in my last two lecture I have discussed in very details about the physical interpretation and how to derive the Maxwell's four equations, and from that four equation we can get the wave equations in a non-conducting medium. That means the total current density is equal to 0 and we assume free charge density also 0. Then we'll discuss about the electromagnetic wave velocity in the dielectric as well as in the free space. And this is and we'll show about the whole electromagnetic spectrum, its usage, and in practical usage in geophysical application, the wavelength ranges and the frequency ranges, and the origin of that electromagnetic spectrum. So, and we'll talk in briefly about the energy flow of electromagnetic wave and the significance of the Poynting vector. So let's start with the electromagnetic wave. So first you can see that electric field, the magnetic field, and the direction of propagation. That means this in this direction. Let's say x direction, this is a y direction, and b is z direction. So the velocity of the wave is in that direction, z direction. This is a wavelength, the distance between two crests or two troughs, as you can see, and this is a frequency in hertz. So this is called the transverse wave. These three are mutually perpendicular to each other. Now this is the whole frequency range: gamma rays, X rays, UV range, infrared, microwave, and this is some application of the electromagnetic spectrum: radar, ground penetrating radar. Then thereafter it is including the radio waves. Then in the electromagnetic spectrum of the low frequency range we can conduct electromagnetic induction survey, practical application, and the magnetotelluric survey using the passive energy source method of lightning, and thereafter we can get diurnal circulation of secular variation. That is discussed in my magnetic lecture, what is diurnal variation. And talking about the geophysical application, these two ranges, that means ground penetrating radar, it is using the wave equation of Maxwell, and it is that the electromagnetic induction. Then we have to take care of the wave equation in conducting medium. That means where J is equal to sigma E naught is equal to 0, and this is the whole range of frequency spectrum. Next we'll talk about the origin of the electromagnetic spectrum and its usage. So starting from the high frequency, we are having gamma rays and X rays. They are originated due to nuclear transitions, and the X rays are originated due to the transition of the inner atomic electron. Now where there is a transition between the states of the atom, that will give rise to UV radiation. Talking about the visible ray, the origin, its spectrum is very low, and when there is a valence electron transition, it will give rise to the visible light. Then the very famous molecular vibration and the rotation spectrum, it can give rise to infrared radiation, that is having the wavelength range of 1 millimeter to 1 micrometer. For gamma and X-rays, the wavelength ranges are very small because the energy is inversely proportional to wavelength. And talking about the microwave, radio wave, these are very important application in daily usage. Everyone is having microwave, and the communication, radar astronomy. For radio wave, the TV, different types of electronic circuits, the radiation from the power line, and the radio, that gives rise to the radio wave. And a small part of the radio wave, that is up to 1 gigahertz, 100 megahertz to 1 gigahertz, that will give rise to ground penetrating, the application in geophysical application, that is the ground penetrating radar, and it is used to probe the underground subsurface structure for very shallow depth. I'll be discussing in my next slides. Now when there is a frequency range we use below 50 Hz, we can get electromagnetic induction survey also to probe the conductivity structure of the earth, along with the magnetotellurics, that is done to probe the higher depth structure where the small frequency is used, and it's the source of the frequency is from the lightning in that means greater than 1 Hz, and the solar interaction of our solar wind with the earth magnetic field. This is a passive source energy method magnetotellurics. This is also very important and interesting survey in the geophysics, that is based depending upon the energy spectrum, electromagnetic energy spectrum, and the wave equation in a conducting medium. And thereafter we get the diurnal and secular variation. That means variation for 1 day, and secular is 1 to 11 hours. Pictorially we can see there is a visible light. In the left hand side the frequency decreases, energy decreases, that means wavelength increases, and in the right hand side we get X-rays, gamma rays, very high frequency and the very low wavelength. The oscillations are very much, so that means indicates the frequency is high and the energy is high. The visible portion is very narrow, that means 400 to 700 nanometer is wavelength ranges. Now we move to how we have to derive our Maxwell's wave equation. Now assume there is no free charge, that means rho is equal to 0 and current density. So starting with that Faraday's equation, curl of E is equal to minus del V del T. So the proof and derivation already have been given in my last lectures. Now we can take the curl in the both sides. Curl of E is equal to del T of curl of B. From vector identity we can get this amount, the curl of E is equal to gradient of divergence of E minus grad square E term. And this is the first law of Maxwell, that means the Gauss law, and we assume that del rho is equal to 0, and this is the fourth law, curl of H, J is equal to 0, and we substitute B is equal to mu we substitute H for B and we get this term. So by substituting these two equations in the first equation, what we can get, this term is 0, so grad square E term is del T of curl of B, minus sides cancel from both sides, and curl of B is mu epsilon del E del T. So we get grad square E term mu epsilon del 2E del T square. So is the second derivative of space term, and in the right hand side the partial second derivative of the time with respect to time. So it is our famous wave equation in 3 dimension, and we can replace it that mu E root over mu E, that means the wave velocity, and it can be written as 1 by v square. I will discuss that. There is a Maxwell's velocity in a dielectric medium. For free space the mu will be replaced by mu 0 and epsilon by epsilon. In a wave equation that because in a wave equation that term in general it can be represented as a function of x and t. So now we can move to velocity. Talking of the velocity, that velocity what we can replace, we replace velocity is equal to 1 by root over mu epsilon. So mu can be written as mu 0 into relative permeability and epsilon 0 into relative permittivity. Whenever we are in the free space, the propagation of the electromagnetic wave in the free space, we can replace in the free space mu is equal to mu 0, and that velocity of the wave will be velocity in free space will be 1 by root over mu 0 epsilon 0. So from 1 and 2 what we can get in general in a dielectric medium, that velocity can be written as velocity of electromagnetic wave in free space divided by the relative permeability and the relative permittivity. In a non-magnetic medium this relative permeability term is 1, so we are left with relative permittivity, and C by V can be written as the root mean square of the relative permittivity, and that term is very important. It is called the refractive index of the medium. That means the ratio of the electromagnetic wave velocity in free space with that in the any medium. So it is a unitless quantity, no unit will be there. And in general, if we substitute the values of mu 0 epsilon 0 in the velocity, what we can get the velocity like 3 to 10 power 8 meter per second, and it agrees with the speed of light in the free space. So from there we can tell light is the electromagnetic radiation, which is also demonstrated experimentally by Hertz, and this is a very this Maxwell's 4 equations are very revolutionary equation. from that 4 equation we can reach to a velocity of light in free space, and we can prove that this light is an electromagnetic radiation. It's a very revolutionary proof, and that is only carried out only by using the Maxwell's equations. Now we get the wave equation. So from the wave equation, what are the solutions? The solution of electric field can be written as, this is the electric field 0, that means amplitude into space part and the time part in a 3D, common 3D equation. Similarly for H we can write that. Now one by one we will discuss the parameters. That E0 and H0, they are complex amplitude which do not change with time and space, that is they are fixed with time and space. And this is K is the wave vector, that means that it is determining the direction of propagation. Suppose the electromagnetic wave is propagating in the z direction, so K will be the function of z. So and this will be Kz minus omega t, K dot z for dot product. And we know from first equations we know divergence of E is 0 and divergence of H is equal to 0. There is a free charge do not exist and the non-existence of magnetic monopole, and we substitute these two terms in the divergence. What we can get, K dot E, that means if you take the divergence of that, the derivative will be e to the power same term with the K dot this term, so K dot E. So K dot it will be 0 and K dot H is equal to 0. What that indicates, that means K and E are mutually perpendicular to each other, K and H also perpendicular to each other, because this dot product 0 means the angle is between them is 90 degree. So E and H, they are perpendicular to the K, and that implies the transverse wave indirectly. Now we replace 3 and 4, this wave equation in 3 and 4. Let's see what happens. So if we replace 3 and 4 in the equation with curl, taking the curl, we can get I into, that will be I term will be there, and K cross C. So if we take the time derivative del H del T, we get minus I omega term and mu of H whole term. So we can get K cross C mu omega HM, and for magnetic term we get K cross H is equal to mu epsilon mu E. So in that we can get that E and H are mutually perpendicular. From here what we can see, that equation term, that E and the electric field and the direction of propagation are perpendicular to each other, and magnetic field and the direction of propagation are perpendicular to each other. And from here we can see when E and H are mutually perpendicular, that means from there, and E and H are mutually perpendicular also from that equation, and they are also perpendicular to the direction of propagation. So cumulatively what it indicates, the E, H and K are perpendicular to each other, implying the transverse wave. And we can see that from this equation, very importantly, in a non-conducting medium, that E and H will be in a phase. There will be no phase lag between E and H, but in a conducting medium, I will show you the phase lag will be there between electric and magnetic field, but for the case of non-conducting there is no phase lag. Now from the we get the solution of E and H from wave equation. Now before discussing, I will just shortly tell you, this is the energy propagation vector, that means the Poynting vector. It can be denoted as the cross product of electric field and the magnetic field. So if electric field in the x direction, magnetic field in the y direction, so the cross product will be in the z direction. That means it is in the direction of it is along the direction of propagation of the wave. Here in our case, the direction of propagation is the K vector is along the z direction. So the Poynting vector will be along the direction of propagation. Very importantly, physically we can tell. So now same from the vector identity, what we can see, that's E dot E minus E into E dot K. This term is 0. This term is 0. So it is the amplitude square, electric field amplitude square, you can get that magnitude value, and divided by the mu and omega term along the direction of propagation. So it indicates the electromagnetic wave propagation in electromagnetic energy propagation along the direction of the wave. And where we can get this h term, we can get this h term from my previous slide. K cross c means mu omega h, and h is can be written as that. So we get that K cross C means mu omega h cap direct. And in talking about the magnitude, if they are perpendicular to each other, K and E, so K cross E can be written as Ke sin 90, means Ke and mu omega h. That is the magnitude value. Now from the wave equation, this is a wave equation and this is the solution. If we just put the solution in our wave equation, so double derivative along with the space value gives rise to ik into ik is k square term, and along the right hand side there will be time derivative, so it will give rise to I omega into I omega means omega square term along with the mu into epsilon. So k can be written as root over mu epsilon omega. So substituting that value of k in that equation in there, we can get this, we can reach to this equation, and from that we can write half epsilon e square is equal to half mu e square. It is in a dielectric medium. So what it indicates, this indicates this is the electromagnetic, it is the electric field energy, and this is the magnetic field energy, because the energy is proportional to the amplitude square. So in electric field, the amplitude of the electric field will be E0 square, and the H is equal to H0 into to the power some term. So the total mod square amplitude and mod square electric field, and this will indicate the energy, electric field energy. This will indicate the magnetic field energy in free space. That is epsilon is epsilon 0 and mu is equal to mu 0. So physically we can tell that in electromagnetic field, the energy is equally shared between electric and the magnetic field in a linear dielectric medium and also in the free space. So the total energy will be this electric field energy half epsilon 0 e square plus half mu 0 h square in the free space. This will be the total energy. So this is, so from starting from the Maxwell's 4 equation, we have derived the wave equation, and from the wave equation we get these values from the transverse wave solution and get the Poynting vector, and from that Poynting vector we can, and from that equation we can tell the electric field energy and magnetic field energy are equal to each other in electromagnetic field. Now we will talk about some applications of the wave equation. So you should remember that whenever you are doing some theoretical things, but really if we can make it in application, it will be very fruitful or beneficial for our society or for our country. So always strive for any application of any theoretical equations. So we can see that this is the wave equation. The wave equation means the propagation of an elastic disturbance. Whenever in deriving that, we assume that the J is equal to 0. Physically in application wise, we will implement it by saying that in a poorly conducting medium, conducting term is less compared to the displacement term. So how we can get the principle, how we can utilize the principle, the high frequency electromagnetic waves travel in the ground, that means elastic disturbance, using the wave equation and the echo principle. What we actually do in the experimental purpose, a very short radar pulse that is up to the 10 power minus 8 second, it is emitted from the mobile antenna which we kept in the ground, and the ray is emitted and which experiences reflection refraction at the places where the dielectric constant epsilon r changes in our ground. And for earth materials, the dielectric constant varies from 5 to 20. This is a unitless quantity, epsilon by epsilon 0, so no unit. Now there will be another receiver which is located close to the transmitter, suppose very close. So we can get already a near surface vertical reflection. So the distance between source and receiver is very small, and we have to apply the signal processing techniques of seismic reflection seismology to minimize the effects of noise, to get the actual signals and to improve the signal by S by N ratio, signal by noise ratio. We know that if we apply high frequency signals, they are rapidly attenuated. Generally the depth, generally to probe the shallow structure, we make use of the high frequency signal that are attenuated very sharply, and some signals are also absorbed by the ground depending upon the composition of soil, rocks, and the effective penetration will be 10 meter around. Whenever we are applying this frequency 10 power 8 to 9, the resolution means the minimum depth it can so the higher resolution, it's having very resolution 0.1 to 1 meter. More the frequency, the resolution will be very higher. So in always you should keep in mind that if we are applying higher frequency, in that case the resolution will be very high, and for poor resolution the frequency will be less, but in that case the depth of penetration will be high. So resolution, frequency and the depth of penetration will be inversely proportional to each other along with the resolution. So this is the high resolution shallow structure investigation, and for the near surface, which is very useful for buried and forgotten waste deposits, the fracture patterns, and the investigation of the groundwater resources. So you can see how the wave equation can be utilized in the real geophysical application purposes. Hope you have enjoyed this lecture, and for any doubt you can comment on the YouTube section link, and before following this lecture you should follow my previous lectures on Maxwell's wave equation, the 4 wave equations, so that you can get a feel. In my next lecture I will be probably talking about the Maxwell's equation in conducting medium and the derivation of the Poynting vector. So if you like my channel, please subscribe it also for getting notified about the more updates. Thank you.